The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys! This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Savannah Humoller, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And here we go. It's time for a Thursday edition of Mick Shots.
Yeah.
With football players on a football field and
music in the air. It ain't football music. It's just music. Just music.
Outside, you heard the music?
Yeah, they're jamming.
Blaring it. They're blaring it because they're going on the road. They're playing at Buffalo. And do y'all understand just how epic this game is going to be on Sunday?
Because
tell us.
It's going to go right down to the wire, and there's a lot riding on this game. We need to understand that as we kick off this show. For both teams. That's right.
Yes.
There's a whole heck of a lot riding on this. This is playoff football in December.
And that happens, we call the playoffs, but the playoffs always start. We talked about this after Thanksgiving. That's when the playoffs really start. So.
December.
And
especially as jumbled up as things are, depending on what your goals are. And this Buffalo team, there was a pick of some, including me, to go to the Super Bowl this year. And they still have that on their agenda. But they got work to do before that, even at 7-6 on the season.
are they on the outside of the wild card looking?
I haven't looked at that, but what they're looking at is a Miami Dolphins team that's ahead of them in the division right now that just lost to the Tennessee Titans on Monday.
So
and
they're
if
really
they can take care of business. And their last game of the season is against Miami, and they want to be in a position where they're playing Miami the last game of the season for a division title.
Are they just one game behind?
Two back.
Two back?
Two back. I think. I mean, make sure on that.
Two back as far as getting in the playoff.
Two behind them, but if they wind
Miami.
up.
Oh, behind Miami. Okay.
Yeah. And just checking here, who's Miami got this week? I got the schedule right here.
Yep, Miami moved down to number 2. Baltimore's number 1.
Thank God.
What's their record?
Bill's
What's
lost.
Miami's?
Miami's record is 9-4.
9-4.
Right.
Okay.
So they are 2 games back.
I was
They
thinking 8-4.
play
That's right.
The Jets.
The Jets this week.
The Jets at home. The Jets with a quarterback who was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week, in Zach Wilson.
What is going on?
How about at the beginning of the season? Let's go back to August 1st and say, okay, the Players of the Week in mid-December, you're going to have a guy named Zach Wilson and a guy who was not at that time projected to be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets, a guy named Tommy DeVito.
Let's not make fun of Tommy DeVito.
And a guy named Brandon Aubrey, for that matter.
Tommy DeVito is 3-1.
I think so.
That's crazy.
Lost here, and then he's got
won 3.
That's
Good for him.
Got him just
caught
in
him. We caught him at just the right
Just in time, they got him.
Before he became Brock Purdy. Did I mention Brock Purdy that way? I looked at him. You know what? He kind of reminds me of Brock Purdy.
And you didn't mention that if the Cowboys win, they're in the playoffs.
That's exactly right.
Wow,
and
I
if
didn't
they
know that.
lose, they can also get into the playoffs
With about 13 different scenarios.
And then some of those scenarios are pretty likely scenarios too.
About teams losing.
How do you think this team would, respond to that with the youth that we have out there? Some veterans.
Oh,
but it's not like the pressure's on.
I hope they respond that it's a given they're going to the playoffs. They got bigger fish to fry.
My point is, okay, we're in the playoffs. Let's chill.
No,
we're in the playoffs, but we want to go.
The goal.
We still want the division.
Right.
What should their mentality be?
The division.
That's my point. What should their
Which is the same goal
they
the
have
Bills
to
have.
know. They have to know. Okay, well, guys, we can win and be in, or even not win and be in. How are they going to react?
McCarthy basically put that to rest when we want to win the division after he threw away the other stuff about, if you win, you're in. How do you do with this stuff? And it's like, we got to look at what's in front of us.
I was hoping, and I hope, that this team doesn't need a Jimmy Johnson. They don't have to have a Jimmy Johnson to.
Well, they might have one.
Well, yeah, but
Might be Dan Quinn.
He's a different.
Might be Mike
Jimmy Johnson. Instead of yelling at him, can his, just blunt statements be taken seriously by his team? That's my point. Do they have to be frightened to play well?
Can you frighten players this age?
And should you have to, is my point.
No.
Should you have to?
No, not at all.
There you go.
But, yeah, you got to coach guys 30 years later a little different than you did back then.
That's my point.
Right?
There you go.
And
they might get offended if you yell at them.
Where's Michael Irvin and Emmett when you need them?
Yeah, right.
Players didn't get offended in 1989 when coaches yelled at them, did they?
Oh, listen to him.
No.
Listen to him.
They did.
All right, guys, I got to go.
Everson was just ahead of his time. Right? Everson, you would fit in perfectly with today's player,
I sure
right?
would, wouldn't I? Well, this is what I wanted for them as I was bitching all the time back then.
That's right.
This is the environment. But you have to respond.
But, okay, back on the Buffalo perspective coming into this game. Just look at what they've done here. They beat Kansas City this week in the Kadarius Toney game. And they got Dallas this week, okay? Then they play at the Chargers.
We can't keep doing this.
At the Chargers.
Okay.
Okay, that is a very, very...
That's a tough one.
No, it's a very, very winnable game.
The Chargers?
Yes, they don't have
Herbert's
a quarterback.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay, my
that's
bad.
right. Easton
So
Stick
true,
is starting
so
at
true.
quarterback. But then again, the way these
right.
quarterbacks
That
are
might
playing...
Alan Moore.
That might be the solution.
Browning comes up.
And that coach is about to get. He's going to be one of the first.
He's done. He's done.
And then, speaking of a coach who may be among the first who may already be fired, they got New England next.
Yeah, already fired.
Bill.
He's
Right.
already
Right.
fired.
So
Bill's week.
So look at the Buffalo players. They're looking at their schedule, okay, and they're okay. We got Dallas, and then Chargers and the Patriots. We've already got both of those coaches fired, and then we close with Miami. So that puts that much more importance on if we can just beat Dallas, we're going to be probably playing for a division in the last week.
You think we were the reason that 2 coaches are fired this year?
No, I'm saying the Buffalo players are they're saying, okay, we're playing 2 teams that the coaches are already basically fired after this game.
They've beaten those.
I was going to
didn't
say
help out their cause,
we may have
right?
helped them get fired.
That's true. Yeah.
Didn't help their cause. I think so when we talked about checking on the elements, the weather, and McCarthy pointed out that his 2 biggest concerns when it comes to weather is wind and rain, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Did you ever have to play in the snow?
Yeah, I did.
It doesn't change too much if it's not like a blizzard or anything.
I think well, I was in a blizzard, yeah. It was pretty bad. But no, we mostly had to deal with the rain.
Yeah.
Especially in Jersey.
Right.
When I was with the Giants, played against Buffalo. Yeah, we were the only team to hold them under 20 points twice that year, but at the same time, we only beat them once, and that wasn't a bowl. But as we played in Jersey, it constantly rained, and it was below freezing. That to me, that's
so cold, rain, and wind,
God.
right?
You couldn't. I mean, if you fall, you're going to be in a puddle, and
And it's cold.
It's cold, and it's still raining, and the wind is blowing, and it's still below freezing.
And you don't get to change clothes.
No, you can't change clothes. And I remember my Myron Guyton. I remember he was talking to me, and his bottom lip was quivering as he was talking. I'm like, whoa, dude, we gotta do something.
Well, now they have all the heated benches and the little things.
Yeah, I bet
keep
ever
Well, they
people warm.
had that then, but once again, you're wet and freezing. It's still wet.
You still
can sit
gotta go
on
out
the
on the
bench all
field.
you want. But it's raining on the sidelines as well. So no, those are the more miserable ones because your hands never dry. Everything you never dry out. You know, even at halftime. You don't have another uniform.
That game, by the way, a 17-13 Buffalo Bills win at the New York Football Giants was played in 37-degree weather with a wind chill of 30. And
there you go. That wind chill. That's it. The wind chill.
Doesn't say anything about precipitation.
Oh, it was raining the entire time.
All right. I'm going to add that to the.
Yeah, please. Trust me, it was puddles on the field.
So speaking of precipitation, the outlook for Sunday is a high of 48,
okay,
low of 42.
Okay.
So that'll be closer to 42 probably when they start the game.
Not a lot of wind, though, right?
It didn't say anything about wind, but it did say 59% precipitation.
Oh, okay.
But the next day, I looked it up, the high of 42 and the low of 26, 91% chance of precipitation. Mm-hmm. That means snow.
Yeah.
So if things move up, right, and you get to Monday on Sunday, it could be pretty,
like you say, lake effect.
Miserable.
Lake effect.
Yeah.
We're on weather watch this
That's Erie,
week,
right?
Yes.
It's Erie?
Lake Erie.
Erie, yeah. Yeah. That was my home
So
for a while.
Lake Erie?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Cleveland?
Oh, Cleveland. I forgot.
That's right.
He forgot it too. Probably.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you just
Hell no. I remember my first game in Cleveland.
Speaking of Belichick.
My first game in Cleveland, I had just gotten there, and half the season was over. I was late for the game because of lake effect snow, and I had never heard what the hell I never knew what lake effect snow was.
like it just happens.
It just happens. It came out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm stuck in traffic. I mean, it was like 3 hours before the game. No one's moving because lake effect snow, what the hell is that? Yeah. I had no idea what that was. I'm from Dallas, man. I don't know about lake effect snow. That's my excuse to Belichick. He's like, hey, man, you didn't make it, you get fined. So me and Nick Saban were late for my first game. Nick Saban was putting on his socks, trying to get out on the field. We had both missed warm-ups.
Uh-huh.
And that was it.
He came by and gave you the good news?
No, he came by trying to put his socks on.
No, I meant about the fine.
No, Belichick, he got fined as well. Well, I don't know if he got fined, but both of us were late.
So here's how miserable it could be at that old stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I covered a playoff game there in January. Fortunately, I was staying downtown because the snow that morning it was almost a blizzard, right?
It was lake effect.
And so I was able to drive there with my rental car. And as other fans were getting into the parking lot, the people that were already there were giving them standing ovations that they made it to the game.
Right.
So then I walk into the stadium,
Lake Erie,
and I see where they're selling beer, right? And they got it all stacked up. It ain't on ice. It's so cold, all you had to do is have it outside because it's 20 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't even use ice to cool down the beer.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
That was a pretty miserable day.
And I'm not a Cleveland guy. I'm a Dallas guy. And Dallas and Cleveland are so different. So different. This was all new territory for me. Thank God I knew Belichick. That was about the only guy I had out there.
Well, they can't simulate.
Was that 93? 93.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead, Mickey.
No, I was going to say they can't simulate snow in practice, but they do get wind in that little 3-prong tunnel they have outside. And so Brandon Aubrey can practice, and he does kick into that wind quite a bit in practice. And they can, I guess, throw the footballs into a bucket of water, get used to throwing a wet ball.
They don't have like
can't simulate rain.
They don't have a studio,
or just turn on
a studio fan.
Turn on the sprinklers. Practicing with the sprinklers going, right? So anyway, but that was one of the discussions in the press conference today. I think the other thing that we can get to in the next segment is the fact that Mazi Smith's going to have to take on a bigger role on Sunday against the team that probably, depending on the weather, wants to run the football against this Cowboy defense.
That would be the way I'd run the football too.
That's just what I would do. I would just make sure we have a heavy dosage of Josh Allen.
All right, we continue with more Mick Shots in just a moment.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby. The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Were you laughing about something? Did I hear you giggling?
Well, that was Mickey.
Oh, what you giggling
What's
about?
Mickey?
I was laughing.
I mean, your microphone's over here, Mickey.
Right.
I was laughing because I was trying to sign on to the computer, and I was thinking of Everson saying, I got to do it twice or
all
three
the
times.
time. I did it
was
today,
on my
went
third
twice.
time now.
Before you can get logged in.
This is why I show up early.
Thank you.
I get all logged in.
We need you.
So does it take you 2 or 3 times?
Well, that was
No, of course
No,
not.
of course
She's
not.
young and smart.
No.
that was
Usually
three,
This
and
is
I'm
for
One
old people.
time.
This is for these old people problems.
Well, I don't even open mine. I just use my iPad.
Jeez.
All right.
Mazi.
Mazi. You want to get into Mazi.
Well,
okay? And
it
you
looks
wanna,
pretty.
It sounded like from the 3:30 press conference yesterday that the Jonathan Hankins playing this week did not look good.
Exactly
and
what
it
I was
got
gonna say.
Updated today.
I think he's out.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy put it, he'd be hard pressed to get there by Sunday. Mm-hmm. As we were talking about yesterday, 325 pounds on a high ankle sprain, probably not doing real well. So, they could also use Neville Gallimore there, I would imagine. And they're going to have a rotation. And we talked about calling up Carl Davis, 9-year veteran, 335 pounds, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I think Mazi probably get the most snaps he's had so far this year. He's averaging like 16 a game. A high of 20, like 25, maybe something like that. But it was in the mop-up duty against the Giants the second time around.
What's going on with Gallimore? Does he play much?
Yeah, he's in the rotation, and he can play either one.
Oh, okay. So that would be a change for him.
But I could see him going in there and playing more at the one technique.
Mm-hmm. To bring you up to speed on Neville Gallimore, last game against Philadelphia had 12 snaps. He had 11 snaps against Seattle, 17 against Washington. That's been roughly and it's about the same as what Mazi. Mazi had 13 snaps against Philly, 11 against Seattle, 20 against Washington. So, I mean, that rotation, So, and that's one of the things that McCarthy talked about today with Mazi. You got these expectations in first-round draft pick. Well, that's a position that doesn't rack up stats, number one.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then he's walking into a veteran-filled room. Yeah. And we keep that all in perspective as we try to decide, 13 games into his career that, he's a first,
he's a bum.
Yeah.
He's a bum.
And I think people need to have some experience at looking at that, because I think we talked about it just recently. My first impression of Ken Norton was, well, he can't play in this league, you know? And it took him about 3 years before he became Ken Norton Jr. So,
and then what, three Super Bowls later?
And
is it three or 4?
Well, 2 with the Cowboys and 1 with San Francisco,
one
right?
With San Francisco, okay.
Right? Or did he get no, he 92, 93, and then he became a free agent and went to San Francisco in 94. So, you know, when Mike was asked about Mazi, he said, I think Mazi's doing a hell of a job. He said his job is dirty. It's filling a role that is not going to bring you any notoriety. So his job is not sacks. It's basically getting in there and mucking up the runs. And you may not get a lot of tackles either.
For perspective, Jonathan Hankins, who was a second-round draft pick of the Giants 10 years ago. He's a rookie going into the Giants at 21 years old, like Mazi. He played 11 games that year. He had 16 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and didn't start a game.
So it takes a while. And you know.
He always knew how to get tackles for losses, huh? That was something he could always do.
2 tackles for loss.
There you go.
He also brought up when he was at Green Bay, I forgot his first name, Raji, the big dump truck of a nose tackle. Is it DJ, RJ?
BJ.
BJ Raji? Yeah. And he brought him up on how he had to, you know, explain to him that you're there to facilitate other people. You know, don't let everybody say, well, you were this draft choice and you're not doing this. So he feels like, you know, from a Mazi Smith standpoint, that the jump that he can make from this year to next year could be very huge because he still has the talent. So anyway, we'll get a chance. We'll get a chance to see him a lot more.
B.J. Raji, 2009. B.J. Raji out of Boston College. He was a first-round draft pick, and he was the 9th overall pick in the draft. Okay, so a top 10 pick. His first year at Green Bay, 14 games, 1 start, 25 tackles.
So anyway, I think everybody...
And his second year, he became a starter.
I think everybody has this perception that he's slow off the ball, and it's like, well, is he? You know, where's he going?
Right.
So...
And B.J. Raji's third year, he was a Pro Bowler.
Right.
So.
And they'll have the rotation still.
Yeah.
So you have Neville Gallimore, and you have, if they elevate Carl Davis Jr. to the press.
The key thing for him is not to get turned, to stay square to the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And when when Dan Quinn was talking about Hankins, he basically said he's square, he's strong, and he has experience. And that was his attributes, and meaning square to the line of scrimmage. Don't get turned.
SquarePants.
Right? Because once you get
the line,
that has nothing to do with
once you get turned, that's it. You're done, right? In
no
this
connection.
league.
Sometimes you have to be visual.
Yeah, but that's not a visual connection at all. It is not.
Coach McCarthy did say in the press conference
Thank you,
that
Savannah.
you're welcome. I'll bring us back.
As we get back to
We'll get
football.
back. Come on, back. Malik Hooker did not participate in their practice yesterday, but he should be limited today. And then Brian Anger is back. He was on a personal out yesterday, so he is back today in participation.
Very good. And that's really all, because most of the injury report was just
mostly rest.
Guys that were resting, or at the most limited. So it's a pretty good outlook.
But the Bills, I was curious about. So I know Micah Hyde, he did not participate in their Wednesday. Has he been out for quite a while?
No, he played 66 snaps against Philadelphia. It was his last time to, if I got this right. I may not have it updated here and here. So, yeah. I'll have to check on him.
Let's see, because I know he
played last week, because I looked at the film.
In that
He's 23.
Philly game.
I looked at the Kansas City game, and he started against Kansas City.
So, yes, he did not participate.
They had 23 and 21 Jordan Poyer playing safety, what I was looking at on film.
Okay. Josh Allen, he was full in their practice. He did have a right shoulder that they were looking at recently.
By the way, Josh Allen, McCarthy was asked about him yesterday's press conference, and he compared him with Brett Favre, which was interesting.
I can see that.
And, Josh Allen will be making his 90th start in this game. He is 59-30 in his career. Okay, guess what? Brett Favre's record was through 89 starts in his career. 59-30, exact same record. I thought it was interesting.
So
That is crazy.
Did you say what Hyde's snap count was?
I did not know it. No,
34. So he did get
34. Okay,
got hurt.
All right.
So
he did start last week, so he came out then.
There was 66, I think, was
the total,
close to 100%. Yeah.
Okay. But Josh Allen is prototype what you would be looking for in a quarterback as far as his size goes, arm strength, and everything. And
that's why everybody loves him so much.
6'5", 233 pounds. Yes,
athletic, strong arms, all of that.
We talk about his arm. He's run for 10 touchdowns, and they're not.
And in the last 2 years, he ran for over 700 yards.
He's got 347.
He's not on that same pace this year running the ball.
But
he's only been sacked 18 times this year.
10 touchdowns
running,
and
25.
And those are not probably scrambles. I bet the majority of them are called quarterback draws. And he's a hard guy to get on the ground too. He's big, right?
No, he won't just go down.
Yeah,
he does not slide.
I mean, he'll dive.
Yes.
Or he'll try to run you over.
He has that same Favre personality.
He does.
So
but he's bigger than Favre.
From a defensive standpoint.
That's the thing about Favre. In fact, I was on the NFL radio this morning. Mike Tenenbaum was talking about, they used that soundbite from McCarthy talking about Josh Allen and comparing him to Brett Favre. And he said, the thing about Favre that struck him when first time he saw him in person, he wasn't as big as he thought he was.
Right.
Because
he played big.
Yeah. He was larger than life on the field, and especially as he got later in his career, whatever. But up close, I mean, Favre was listed at 6'2", 220 pounds or something. But so that's, if that's a true height, it's 3 inches shorter than Josh Allen, And
they both have the problems with throwing interceptions.
He did say this about Favre. He said that the one thing about Favre, he had the largest hands of anybody he shook hands with. And in fact, he said that the only person, I think Favre said, the only person with larger hands than him that he ever shook hands with was Michael Jordan.
I shook hands with Jordan one time. Yeah, I got an autograph from my dad.
It's amazing how much easier it is to play sports if you have.
That's why he likes soccer. That's why he likes soccer.
That's our excuse.
I never played soccer. I didn't figure out the hands thing until later on in life. It's like, look at all these guys. One of the guys that I roomed with once when I was in Columbia, he was a pitcher, right? And he's throwing the ball and it's moving all over the place. And I looked at his hands and his fingers went right along the whole ball. It's like, come on.
You imagine in basketball, like how much easier was basketball for a guy like Michael Jordan if you can just palm it and do whatever you want to with it, Anyway, that's an aside.
Favre, I'll give you another side on Favre. After his rookie year in Atlanta, I was at the Super Bowl. And it was after the Super Bowl game, and me and my buddy that I worked with in Jackson, Mississippi, he had gone to southern Mississippi. So we're walking out, going to our hotel. It was about 2-3 blocks away, and Jerry Glanville comes walking out at the same time. Hey, where are you guys going? It's like, we're going to such and such. He goes, yeah, I'll walk with you. So my buddy couldn't resist. He said, so, Jerry, do you think Favre can play? And he goes, well, I think he's got some talent, but he's got to remember, like, after, like, Wednesday, can't have all that corn squeezing going on.
Stop.
Meaning drinking. And I'll be darned, so this would have been the end of January. By March, they traded him to Green Bay for a first-round pick. He called it corn squeezing.
That was a mistake right there.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the rest, as they say, is history.
But as good as Favre was, he was a gunslinger.
Yeah.
Meaning there were some very ill-advised passes that he should not have thrown.
Right.
I remember watching a playoff game, Green Bay against the Giants. And I had a buddy sitting next to me, and he bet that Favre would throw an interception. And sure enough, he threw that interception, and that was a big one. And that ended up causing them to lose because Eli and the guys were winning.
Speaking of Favre, so last night I was watching ESPN. They were doing the SEC schedule release for football next year. And
counting your losses,
right? Oh boy, they got to play almost not back to back, but Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma. It's a pretty tough schedule. Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't be scared.
There's no division.
You're top 10, right?
That's right. Number 9 in the country.
Oklahoma. Come on, don't let this man intimidate you, man.
The SEC just became the toughest conference in America.
Yeah.
Sooners and
you know what?
Longhorns.
It'll be another team that Missouri can score 40 points against, too, by the way.
Oh, he's talking trash down there. He's bouncing back.
Shots.
Anyway.
He's dropping. They dropped.
After it was over, the 30 for 30 for Reggie White came on, and they were showing some of the highlights, right? And they were showing highlights against the Cowboys with Jason Garrett at quarterback. And I'm going, well, they're missing the point here because Garrett ripped him for 400 yards passing, most in the second half. But all they showed was Reggie getting after Eric Williams and complaining that Eric Williams was poking him in the eye.
Eric probably was.
And he probably was. He would do anything to win.
That's right.
Sort of like Charles Haley rushing him, right?
He was John Madden's favorite.
Yeah.
John Madden's favorite was Eric Williams.
So Glanville and the Falcons traded Favre after what season?
I thought it was after his rookie season.
91?
91.
Okay, and so Glanville and the Falcons went 6-10 in 92 and 93 with Chris Miller at quarterback in 92.
I told you.
And then Bobby Hebert at quarterback in 93.
Yeah,
and Mick Shots continues in a moment.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
The 2024 NFL Pro Bowl games are taking over Orlando, and the roster is up to you. Cast your ballot for the 2024 Pro Bowl games. Vote and send your favorite Cowboys players to compete in the ultimate AFC versus NFC showdown this February. Vote now at probowl.com/vote.
Does it have a deadline on that?
Not that I'm aware of.
There is for the fan voting.
Yes.
For the fan voting.
And then
it's going to be soon because we're approaching. They usually announce those like with 2 weeks left in the season.
Let's look. I'll find out.
They announce the results of the Pro Bowl voting.
I don't think. Yeah, they usually when it was a 16-game season.
It was
the coaches and
Christmas,
players.
I want to say they would announce the team.
Yeah, because the coaches it used to be even sooner than that.
Right, where they would make their vote.
Yes.
Yeah. There's one day where the players all vote, have their ballots like on a Wednesday.
Yeah. It used to be.
So if you're going to make the Pro Bowl, you got to get your work done before the last 3 weeks of the season.
Don't wait.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I'd say Brandon Aubrey's put out a pretty good resume.
I think he's got a chance.
Slim chance. He might make it.
Cowboys are going to have a lot of Pro Bowlers this year.
I was trying to remember what his answer was. Somebody asked him after the game, "When's the last time you've done a press conference?" And I think he said, "I think I had one when I got drafted in soccer."
Oh yeah, Major League Soccer first-round pick in Toronto.
Yeah.
So, okay, this Buffalo team. What is it that we've talked about Josh Allen a little bit? What is it that sticks out?
The other thing I noticed
as he flips through his Buffalo Bills press release.
Just to note, fan voting is open through Christmas Day, and then players and coaches will then place their votes on December 29th.
Very good.
Okay.
For the Pro Bowl.
Man, we need Savannah here.
Mm-hmm. Just not figuring that out.
Okay, on to the Bills. On to the Bills.
On to the Bills.
It's Bills week.
My week.
They have 42 sacks. They're tied for third most in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, offensive line, beware.
You know, a game like this, to me, is obvious. You don't want to put the ball in the air too much. You know, these kind of games, you want to make sure you have a good ground attack. So I would be really interested in what their run defense looks like. You know, who we have to look out for. Can they match up against our offensive line, who's been improving slightly every week? We haven't been, going backwards. We haven't been going lateral. We've been improving every week in our run game.
They answer your question. Their run defense, they're 19th in the league in run defense. They've lost at every level of their defense. Back in late September, early October, they lost a primary player. What parallels with the Cowboys, they lost their top defensive player, Matt Milano, linebacker, in the 5th game of the season. And, of course, the Cowboys lost Leighton Vander Esch in October as well. They lost Tre'Davious White, their cornerback, who's a former Pro Bowler, 1st of October. Of course, the Cowboys lost Trayvon Diggs going way back. So there's a parallel. They also lost up front Daquan Jones, who is more of their run-stuffing defensive tackle, to answer your question. They are hoping to get him back, I think, at some point, but he went on IR back on October 11th. He made 16 starts last year for them. Doesn't rack up the big numbers, that one technique, but he is 6'4", 322 pounds. Their 3 technique, Ed Oliver, is their first-round draft pick, now with a big contract. 4 year, $68 million extension. And so Jordan Phillips, who is a big 6'6", 334-pound guy, starts for Daquan Jones right now.
So if I'm Buffalo, and I don't know if this is a trend, as we get late into the season, I expect teams to think just like I'm thinking. I got to come in and run the ball. So I would imagine that the way they play defense during the second half of the season might change a bit because they're going to get certain tendencies. Right?
Well,
every team that's going to come in, they're thinking, man, this weather, we got to run the ball, guys, because, I don't want to put the ball in the air too much in this kind of weather.
Well, they give up 114 yards rushing a game, but just 9 rushing touchdowns so far. So, and did I see Leonard Floyd? Was he on their injury report?
Yes, wrist, but he was a full participant in their Wednesday walkthrough. So I think today we'll see.
He has 9.5 sacks. Ed Oliver has 6.5, and AJ Epineza has 6.5 sacks. So those
they have
three
14
guys,
players who have at least a half sack this year. Out of their 42 sacks, there's 14 different players who have participated in that.
Gregory Rousseau has 4.5. So they've done a pretty good job with the sacks so far. So the offensive line kind of you're on notice.
But also, as far as that run defense, the guy that has emerged, now that Milano's been out especially, the guy that has emerged at linebacker for them is a second-year player, third-round draft pick last year, Terrell Bernard out of Baylor. And he's undersized, much like Marquise Bell. 6'1", 218 pounds, which is pretty much Marquise Bell. So in this day and age in the NFL, he's got 3 interceptions. He's got 3 forced fumbles. He's their leading tackler by a long shot.
112.
Yeah.
Damn.
I was going to say only 112.
Think about Baylor, though. Baylor was in the Big 12 championship game 2 years ago, and he was his last year there. Jalen Petrie from the Texans, who's a heck of a player in his second year, he was on that Baylor team. There was a reason Baylor was as good. Now, they haven't been good since then, but 2 years ago, they were hitting it exactly with all these and scrappy, smallish, fast defensive players. And Terrell Bernard, number 43, you'll be seeing him on Sunday.
So there you go. They a lot of sacks, and they're pretty good against the run.
So we need to beef up our run game a little bit. Get that rotation in with Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard.
And we have to
establish the run in those conditions out there.
And we have to account for the quarterback. So it's almost a Jalen Hurts thing.
So on the defensive
side, you got to account on the defensive side for Josh Allen. I mean, this is something it's a bigger Jalen Hurts, right? I mean, Jalen's strong, and he can be strong as he wants to be.
Much bigger,
but he's not nearly as big as Josh Allen.
And Josh Allen, and we saw when they played Philadelphia, he runs.
He loves to run.
He runs more than Jalen Hurts.
He runs harder than Jalen Hurts.
Exactly.
Yes.
He runs. He's going to look to escape the pocket, and if he has the ability to run, he's going to do it.
Yeah, if it's there.
Especially in the red zone.
He has open space.
Especially red zone, guys. We got to be ready for this guy.
So how do you think Stephon Diggs approaches this game? Now, he's not going up against his brother.
Man, come on. Talk about a missed opportunity.
Will Trayvon be there? That's my question.
I think he'll be in attendance. Don't you think?
Little family reunion.
He might be. Yeah, I got to go see his brother.
6'5", 237, by the way.
That's a lot.
On Josh Allen.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see Stephon versus Stephon, right?
Yes.
And the former Bills first-round draft pick, Stephon Gilmore, as a matter of fact.
I mean, he did foul.
Is there motivation for Stephon Gilmore going back to Buffalo in this sense? Now, when he played for the Bills, his last head coach there was Rex Ryan, and we talked about earlier in the season, Dennis Thurman was the guy. He credits Stephon credits Dennis Thurman for really getting him on track in his career. His last 2 years, he was the defensive coordinator for Rex Ryan there and worked with Gilmore. And then
Dennis
Gilmore
Thurman.
left.
Everywhere he went, he took Dennis with him.
So Gilmore, the backstory on that, he left after the 2017 season.
He played 5 seasons with him.
And so that's when Sean McDermott became the head coach. They decided, I think they decided either not to. He did play 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't sign him to a long-term contract, so he became a free agent. And he goes to New England, and a couple of years later, he wins the Super Bowl, and he also becomes Defensive Player of the Year in New England.
Bill Belichick.
Whatever. Yeah, right.
But in Buffalo,
but McDermott was the one basically that made the decision. No, we don't need to spend that big money on this guy. And they in the 2017 draft, they drafted Tre'Davious White,
who's hurt now, right?
Right, and he's hurt. Yeah.
In 5 years, he had it was either 12 or 14 interceptions. I remember writing it down. So he had a pretty good career there. But he ended up on A.J. Brown, this past game.
Mm-hmm.
They switched him to DK Metcalf the second half of the Seattle game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if it's like, okay, let's make sure we'll take our chances with Gabe Davis and make sure that Stephon Diggs doesn't hurt us.
One thing about older players, the second half of the season is usually their best part of the season.
Why is that?
That's interesting.
It just seems that, it takes you a little bit longer to adapt to the game itself, the game plans, especially a new team, things of that nature. Your experience becomes much more important during the latter part of the season. It just seems as if, things. It's almost like your mind and your body warms up. It just takes it a while for older players to just. You can see when Tom Brady, he didn't always come out, especially as he got older, throwing darts. He got better as the season went on, as long as he wasn't too old. I'm talking about his last year, but his last maybe his third year, when he was about to retire, and but I know when I was there. Things seem to flow mentally and physically a little bit better as you get later on into the season.
And then it helps out when a young wide receiver or a younger wide receiver calls you old.
Yeah. I mean, he could have called him that when maybe 5 games in.
Yeah.
But it's too late now. He's old, but he's warmed up. The flow of the game right now is very easy for him. You can see it, and he's not having any major problems with any wide receiver.
He talked about that yesterday, and he said, he goes, the younger guys on the team, the old man, and this to call me old. But he goes, it was the way he called me old. And
it's all in the delivery.
I'm sure there was an adjective in front of old, right?
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, what did he say? He goes, I can't say that here.
I'm thinking Stephon is not going to be talking to him like that.
Yeah. I think he's wise enough to don't poke the bear.
Although maybe Trayvon's telling Stephon, poke the bear.
Yeah, right?
Nah, man, he's not as good as me, man. He's not as good as your baby brother.
All right, we will shout at you again tomorrow at noon on the next edition of Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!